Good evening, race fans, and welcome to the Rockford Speedway for the running of the 2012 Rockford 200, the capstone of the American Racing League of America season. I'm Scott Bush alongside Earl McDermott for OEN. These ARLA Elite Series machines race everywhere from super speedways to winding road circuits to Canada and Japan. But it all comes to a climax at this tiny bullring in Loves Park, Illinois. And it's certainly shaping up to be an interesting climax. The top three in points are guys who, at the beginning of the season, we never expected to be competing for the championship. They've certainly been able to capitalize on the failures of some of the top teams this season, such as M&J Racing and Pearson Sweeney Motorsports. They've had all sorts of mechanical issues. Now, points leader Ebenezer Quiggles Jr. leads by 72 points. He needs to finish 27th or better, but he didn't qualify so well. That puts him right in the middle of where I think all the trouble's going to be, and if he happens to fall out of the race, all that Rip Tyler has to do is finish 11th or better to take the title. And then there's Yevgeny Kuznetsov, who has 2 wins this season. He absolutely needs Quiggles to fall out of the race if he wants a chance at the championship, but he will have to finish on the podium in order to do that. Now, before the engines are fired, we have a treat for all of our viewers at home. Earlier tonight, Rus Autosport team boss Vitaly Solikov had his unicycling bear Pavlov take a lap around the Rockford Speedway in an ARLA car. Let's take a look. Here is Pavlov on the line, ready to go if he can find the accelerator, and oh my, he's spun and crashed the car already. This is a disastrous start for Pavlov the bear. He backs the car up and hits the wall again. Now it looks like he's going to try to get it straightened out. I think at the very least he knows what direction to go around this track. I believe that Rus Autosport gave Pavlov a bit of vodka before he stepped into the car. I can't say that's going to make much of a difference either way, though. And now Pavlov's doing a bit of landscaping. Let's hope that he doesn't go near the safety crews. There you go, Pavlov back onto the track and promptly into another wall. Well, he is about a third of the way there. He's making some decent progress as he tries a bit of a burnout against the wall. Pavlov, I don't think you should be celebrating yet. You have not finished your lap. Let's see if he can get the car straightened out again. He's done it once before. I think he may have just shifted it into reverse, and now he is going the wrong way. I have to confess that I wouldn't have been surprised to see a few of the drivers we have here on the grid do that themselves. Right, Pavlov's got the car straightened out now, and he's doing even more landscaping work and driving on the figure 8 course a bit. Look out! Pavlov drives straight into one of the barriers they have protecting the safety crew. He's going straight again. Really has no idea that turning the wheel will prevent him from crashing into things. I think there's some smoke coming out of the car, but Pavlov is not giving up as he now rubs against the wall. You gotta be careful. You might flip your car over on some of these walls, but Pavlov doesn't do that. And now Pavlov the bear coasts across the line to finish his lap around the Rockford Speedway as he smashes into another Jersey barrier. That car is finished, but thankfully Pavlov was okay. I think that he should stick to unicycling, though. Well, after that bit of nonsense, the engines have been fired. 30 cars will start tonight's race. This is the largest field that we have ever had for the Rockford 200. Before the cars roll off the starting grid, let's take a moment to chat with our in-race reporter, Allie Riggs, who is making her last start for Riggs Motorsports tonight. Allie Riggs, this is Scott Bush at OEN. Do you have a copy?
So how the hell did you get on my channel?
Do you remember that you agreed to do this earlier tonight?
Right, whatever. What do you want?
Well, this is, of course, your last start for Riggs Motorsports here in the ARLA Elite Series, and then you'll be bringing your truck team up to Elite Series competition in 2013. I know it's been a tough year for you with all of the mechanical woes that you and your teammates have been having, but how do you feel knowing that your time at Riggs Motorsports is coming to an end tonight?
Well, I'm happy because I'll finally actually be able to race for somebody who knows what the hell they're doing.
Right. Well, it was good talking to you.
Good, now go away.
I'd say that went pretty well. You think so? Anyway, the pace car leads the field around the track for their parade laps. And while they do that, let's take a look at our starting lineup. In row 15, we have our two B-main winners, Seiju Deschao and David Krikorian. They both received 50 bonus points for winning their B-mains. In row 14, Lawrence Burr and Rip Tyler, who is second in points coming into this race. Tyler has 3 victories this season, 2 of them on the dirt tracks. In row 13, we have Ali Riggs and Jacob Eichholz, 2 drivers who had great 2011 seasons, but they have struggled in 2012, although Riggs does have a victory at the New York Auto Ring. On the inside of row 12 is Ebenezer Quiggles Jr., our points leader. All that he has to do tonight is survive any carnage that might come his way. Row 11 will be Bob Steffens and Chris Winter. Winter will be back with Luck Lighter Racing in 2013, but we have no idea where Bob Steffens is going. In row number 10, we have Jim Moore and Barton Sandy, who will be moving over to Bjorn Green's team next season. Both of these drivers have been good for the occasional top 10 this year. In row number 9 is Carlo De Prato and Yevgeny Kuznetsov. Both are race winners this year, and Kuznetsov is in contention for the championship, but he is a long shot though. Row 8 is Mariano Zavala, who surprisingly won his heat race, and on his outside is Kellen Rogers in the 146. Rogers has been racing all over the place in an apparent identity crisis. Row 7 is Kyle Gaffigan and Kurt Walker. Walker recently broke his 5-year winless streak at Memphis. In row 6, we have Jennifer Goodwin and Dan Lecklider in the second Lecklider racing car. Goodwin, as you may know, is racing with a broken wrist, but that hasn't been stopping her. Row 5 will be Dan Richards and J.W. Lester. Lester nearly won the Mini Indy 500 back in July, and Richards will be finishing off the year for Team Thunder before Kyle Gaffigan moves over there. Row 4 will be Megan Driver and Sarah Carlisle. Both are debutante drivers, but despite this, they have qualified very well. Row 3 will be Kevin Monroe, defending series champion, and Curtis Rutherford making his first start for Team Thunder. Monroe has that win at California, but other than that, this year has been a complete disaster for him. Tyson Lautenschlager for Dangerous Dog Racing is on the inside of row 2, and Benji Flynn is on his outside. And on the Cromwell front row are Herbie Finkelberg and Alex Carson. Finkelberg won his heat race in dominant fashion, and Carson won at Talladega last week at the expense of Ebenezer Quiggles Jr. Pace car is pulled into the pits, leaving the field in the hands of Herbie Finkelberg. Finkelberg leads the field very slowly through turns 3 and 4. And the 33rd running of the Rockford 200 is green. Benji Flynn was sleeping on the start as Finkelberg pulls ahead of Carson, and we have trouble already. Ali Riggs has spun right at the start. She will continue on without a problem, but we have more trouble. Alex Carson upside down in turn 3. Barton Sandy slams into the 93 car. Ebenezer Quiggles is in there. I think he may have gotten some damage, as several other cars are stuck back in turns 3 and 4. Oh, what a shame that the Rockford 200 has got to start like this. Herbie Finkelberg is the leader of the race. He was unchallenged on that first lap. Tyson Lautenschlager has moved up into second place in the 673Z car. Lautenschlager was booted from Carl's Racing after some shenanigans at Tokyo a few months ago. Megan Driver is third. Dan Richards is up to fourth, and Sarah Carlisle rounds out your top 5 at the moment as we try to get everything sorted out. Let's take a look at what happened to Alex Carson as Lautenschlager pulls into the pit lane. Carson's already kind of a sitting duck. He's stuck on the outside. What is Megan Driver doing going 3 wide on the first lap? I have a feeling that we're going to solve our mystery right here. And Alex Carson goes for a ride as Megan Driver makes her very first impression in the ARLA Elite Series. I hope that whoever signed her to that car gets sacked. Well, it's not like she's never been in one of these cars before. Remember, she was pretty fast in her heat race. Let's take another look at this. Driver clearly sees a hole in between the apron and the 63 car. She goes for it, but she just doesn't turn enough going into turn 3, and that's what started this whole mess. I'm not sure why you're trying to sugarcoat this. She clearly doesn't understand how to drive around other cars, and I could believe that she doesn't. Does she even have her driver's license yet? And Kevin Monroe had absolutely nothing to do with this at all. He never got the chance to defend that championship all year with all the crashes and mechanical failures. And I'm not terribly surprised to see his night start off like this, although, fortunately for him, it could have been so much worse. You see, there was an incident between Mariano Zavala and Yevgeny Kuznetsov. Kuzi bounced off of the 98 car and sent Zavala spinning towards the inside. This isn't a very good start for Zavala, who surprisingly won his heat race after being well off the pace everywhere but the super speedways. Well, we're going to have to see how he handles this 200-lap race. I have a feeling that Zenith was throwing everything they had at the heats. It looks like we're going to see how Allie Riggs got turned around at the very start of this, as Lawrence Burgess drove right into the back of her at the line.
What the fuck is wrong with these people? I'm gonna fucking kill that asshole!
We apologize for the language used by Allie Riggs there. Riggs drives away from that spin, but she comes across that roadblock in turn 3 there. Now let's go on board with Lawrence Burr. Riggs washes up the track in turn 3. Burr sees the hole, tries to go for it, but ends up getting into the 19 and spinning her around. Well, that's another driver who really should know better than to try to go 3 wide on the first lap. Even if he does see a big hole like that, you really should be laying back until later. Lawrence Burr was also stopped by that roadblock in turn 3. There's Barton Sandy in the 999 car. Lautenschlager's out of the pits, and he immediately spins the 58 car of Nick Howard around. Not sure what was going on there. Apparently, he has forgotten that cars are solid objects. We mentioned earlier that he was booted from his ride at Tokyo for pretty blatantly wrecking Paul Lyons on the first lap of the race. Lyons was driving for Griesberger at the time, and Griesberger has quite the relationship with Carl's. There are numerous Griesberger restaurants and Carl's stores all over the country. So Carl's treated that as wrecking his own teammate. And I see that race control has made the wise decision and ordered Megan Driver, as well as Lautenschlager, to meet with them after the race. Megan Driver currently sits in second. She actually inherited the position after Lautenschlager peeled off and had to make a pit stop to get a tire changed. He had a tire going down on the first lap, so he gave up second to get that taken care of, and he is currently a lap down. And I'm wondering if Lautenschlager is going to have to pit again after making contact with the 58 car. I can't imagine that the collision would have done anything good for his fenders. Now here is Ebenezer Quiggles Jr. He was caught up in that first lap incident. The Division by Zero crew had to remove the front end from that car. It was rubbing on his tires too much. And Quiggles currently sits in 27th place. It's not a very good individual showing at the moment, but that is right where he needs to be in order to lock up this title. So hopefully he does not run into any more problems tonight, because he's got a huge advantage over the rest of his competition. Yeah, those 4 victories have really worked wonders, and this team actually had a whole bunch of mechanical problems towards the beginning of the season, but thankfully they've got that sorted out. Although, you have to wonder what kind of position he'd be sitting in if he wasn't blowing up all over the place in the first third of the season. Well, Quiggles has also slowed down a bit ever since his last win at Buffalo Downs, which was only the 11th race of the year. He did have Talladega pretty much locked up before being handed that controversial speeding penalty, and he had to pit on the very last lap to serve that penalty as an apparent display of how good his car was. Anyway, back up front, Herbie Finkelberg, car 96, leads the field to the restart. He remained unchallenged on that first lap, and he gets a very good start over Megan Driver. As we are working lap number 8 of 200, Dan Richards in car 07 challenges Driver for second. Sarah Carlisle in the 250 is looking to challenge Driver for third place now. Dan Richards has had a very good start to this race. Richards is actually replacing Bill Tissam in this car. Tissam stepped out after his unfortunate involvement in Scott Morales' accident at Orange County. And the ASCCA regular has stepped in Tissam's place. And we have a car in the wall. David Krikorian, car 32, teammate to Herbie Finkelberg, has smashed into one of the Jersey barriers. The caution is out for the second time tonight. We are only on lap 11. I can't say this bodes well for the race if we have 2 cautions before lap 15. Finkelberg is still your leader. Dan Richards in car number 07 is second. Sarah Carlisle, another one of the debutante drivers, is in third place. Both Richards and Carlisle really caught Megan drivers sleeping in these last couple of laps. And here's a look at what happened to David Krikorian. And Jim Moore comes right out of the pit lane and surprises Krikorian, who sweeps across Kyle Gaffigan's bumper. Gaffigan has absolutely nothing to do with that. Hurry on board with Krikorian. Jim Moore had a pit. We missed that, but he really caught Krikorian by surprise. And this isn't the first time we've had an incident resulting from a car just shooting out of the pit lane and catching the field by surprise. Remember, in one of the B mains, Kiriki Hitsuno came out of the pits right on a restart and immediately caused another caution. Here is Tyson Lautenschlager in the 673Z, who has had to make a second pit stop after that contact with the 58 of Nick Howard. Lautenschlager is still off the lead lap, but fortunately for him, he did not hit anybody on his way out of the pits this time. Herbie Finkelberg continues to lead the race. He has led all 14 laps so far. We're going to have to take a commercial break, but we will be back in just a few moments. Stick around. Coverage of the Rockford 200 on OEN is brought to you by Carl's Superstores. Shop Carl's. Our Chinese child laborers depend on it. And by DMR Chassis Builders. DMR, our only unsatisfied customer was Matt O'Reilly, but he's a bitch anyway. Welcome back to our live coverage of the Rockford 200 on OEN, the final race of the 2012 ARLA Elite Series season. Herbie Finkelberg leads the field to the restart after this latest caution. Jim Moore is the only car that is off the lead lap. We initially reported that Tyson Lautenschlager was off the lead lap when in fact he wasn't. Green flag is back in the air, and Sarah Carlisle in car 250 is going for second as Jim Moore tries to get back on the lead lap. Now, Jim Moore did quite a bit to cause that last caution as we have a battle for the lead between Sarah Carlisle and Herbie Finkelberg. Carlisle takes the lead quite easily. But as I was saying, Jim Moore came screaming out of the pits and caught David Krikorian by surprise. And Krikorian ended up smashing into one of those Jersey barriers in the infield. He is now out of the race. It's a shame because Krikorian won his B main. David Krikorian also has one victory in 2012, coming at the Sarabai 300 at the Twin Ring Motegi. We have another battle for the lead between Dan Richards and Sarah Carlisle, and it got a little bit rough as Richards rubbed up against the 250 car trying to get by her. And Richards' teammate, Curtis Rutherford, is lurking back in the third spot. He's certainly been making his way up through the field since the beginning of this race. And here is the battle for fifth between J.W. Lester and Megan Driver. Driver continues to fall through the field like a rock after her over-exuberant move on the first lap of the race. J.W. Lester is going to drive full-time in 2013 for Peter Irving Gray's team, the very same team that is fielding this 5-0 car for him tonight, and the very same team that he almost won the Mini Indy 500 with before being displaced by Ebenezer Quiggles Jr. after a very epic race battle, I have to say. It looks like Megan Driver is trying to make a comeback here. It looks like that she may have the handling on her car figured out. She has been driving rather cleanly since going 3 wide on the first lap and causing that accident. Kyle Gaffigan is already a lap down and holding up Herbie Finkelberg. Megan Driver comes screaming in there, trying to go for, I believe that's the 4th position. We have more lapped cars up ahead, Jim Moore and Mariano Zavala, who has been falling ever since going for a spin, coming back to the first caution. And Kyle Gaffigan almost gets spun by Herbie Finkelberg. We have 3 wide behind him. And there's trouble! Yevgeny Kuznetsov, car 82, has hit the wall hard, and I believe that Finkelberg has just rolled that 96 car. But he has kept going. J.W. Lester in the 5-0 has heavy damage. Rip Tyler in the 16, one of the championship contenders, is up there as well. And Yevgeny Kuznetsov, who came into this race 3rd in points, is smoking. He's more than likely done. Very, very unfortunate for car number 82, Yevgeny Kuznetsov. Rus Autosport has worked so hard all season to get to where they are. We considered them to be a long shot for the championship, and he was a long shot coming into this race tonight, but we certainly haven't expected them to be as fast as they have been. Yeah, this is quite the heartbreak for Rus Autosport and Kuzi's legions of fans, but if I may be honest, he was only kept in championship contention by Quiggles' penalty at Talladega, and it looks like that Kuzi just comes in 3 wide, pushes up the track, and takes Lester and Finkelberg into the wall. Finkelberg goes for a roll at the pit exit. Well, I'd have to say that was self-inflicted. This is still really disappointing for Kuzi, but a lot of my sympathy kind of went out the window right there. Well, he did end up going 3 wide with Lester and Finkelberg because of that stack-up created by the 37 of Gaffigan just being slow. But what a ride that both Kuzi and Finkelberg took. Carla DiPreto came slamming into this wreck, and there's Allie Riggs in the 19. She hit the wall coming back to this caution and spun around, and she got a bit of damage from Tyson Lautenschlager. That's why Lautenschlager came into the pits before we went to the replay, and we didn't talk about that at all. So Riggs washes up the track and just clips the wall off of 4. I think trying to avoid this wreck.
Oh my god. I can't fucking drive this piece of shit.
And we apologize for the language once again. Any angry letters can be sent to our studio. Here's the address. And our in-race reporter's dismal night continues. We're getting set for the restart now. The pace car will pull off this lap. It is a Team Thunder 1-2. Dan Richards and Curtis Rutherford lead the Rockford 200. Kevin Monroe in the 63 is the first car 1 lap down. He hasn't had a great night so far, getting involved in that first lap accident, and he's been off the pace ever since. Dan Richards gets a great jump over his teammate. Sarah Carlisle is 3rd, and Megan Driver is back up into 4th. We have debutante drivers in 2nd through 4th positions. And Quiggles is around at the entrance to turn number 3. The caution doesn't come out, and Quiggles is now at a huge disadvantage. Although, he is still fairly safe as far as the championship is concerned, but he certainly doesn't need anything like this to happen to him. Quiggles had worked his way up towards the top 10 before that spin, and we believe that it may have happened because of contact with Rip Tyler. Tyler is currently 10th, and he's been battling a stomach flu all week, but that certainly doesn't seem to have affected him. But I'd really like to know what happened between these two, because, oh, and Gaffigan almost gets spun by the 36 of Benji Flynn. Oh, hang on to it, Kyle. But I have not seen any sort of confrontation between Tyler and Quiggles all year, so I'm not entirely sure how that started between them. We got a replay now. Tyler looks to the inside of Quiggles, and Quiggles gets into the side of the 36 of Flynn. And that sends him across the 16's front bumper. I don't know about you, but I think that Tyler really could have backed off before Quiggles went around. Here we are on board with Tyler. Now, this is right on the restart. He sees a hole to the inside of Quiggles, and Quiggles then gets into the side of Flynn, but again, Tyler doesn't really back off, and is more than willing to let the Division by Zero car spin around. Yeah, I'm sure that's going to raise a few eyebrows in race control and in the Division by Zero camp. Now looking at Sarah Carlisle running in second place. Apparently, Yevgeny Kuznetsov wasn't too upset about that incident because he said this on his radio right after he pulled into the pits.
Kirill, мой товарищ, да. Did give Pavlov good vodka before he'd go out and do lap, yes? Да, я делал. Была очень хорошая водка. Okay. Yeah. He did good lap, but I wonder because Polish rally team in the 5 year before did and was absolute mess. Bear crash in first test and send out safety car, fan mall, and
Well, I don't know about you, but I certainly wouldn't be talking about Pavlov after I took myself out of the championship. And there's a wreck! Down in turn number 1, Bob Steffens and Kyle Gaffigan have just hit the wall. We were just looking at Dan Leckleiter, who was running in third place. Good job to him, but we have this to deal with at the moment. We're still green here on lap number 47. Bob Steffens was having a pretty solid run, but this is really going to set him back. Steffens has been running very quietly in that 211 car all season. And Ali Riggs just pulls right into the 211 car. That takes both him and Kyle Gaffigan, who's running a lap down, into the wall. Rip Tyler sneaks by there, and that is Ebenezer Quiggles Jr., who's done a really good job playing catch-up. A tough break for Bob Steffens. He was running 7th before that, and now he's just fighting to stay in the top 10. Dan Richards continues to lead this race by a commanding margin over Sarah Carlisle in the 250 car. We're only a quarter of the way through this race, but Sarah Carlisle is really impressing me so far. They entered this race without too much funding, coming all the way from Nevada. That's an interesting-looking lavender car they've got there, but I've been very impressed with Carlisle so far. A few of our debutante drivers could take note of how well she's been driving and keeping her nose clean. And there's trouble! There's a car! Hard into the wall! That's Dan Leckleiter, who we just saw running in third. Herbie Finkelberg is around. It's the second incident that Finkelberg has gotten into today, but fortunately he's kept all 4 wheels on the ground this time. Finkelberg is running in 16th. He's a lap down, and I'm surprised he's kept that 96 car running after he rolled it. But what a shame for Dan Leckleiter, who had a top 5 run going so far. Leckleiter finished in, I believe, 9th at the Mini Indy 500, but only 8 cars managed to finish that race. Leckleiter was the first who didn't finish, and so he didn't score any championship points to show for it. Here's a replay, and Nick Howard in the 58 hooks Kyle Gaffigan. That sends Leckleiter into the Jersey barrier, and Finkelberg was sent around in turn 1. Nick Howard, of course, drives for Last Row Autosport. That team brought an army of cars to this race. None of them were on the pace in the B mains, and they seem to get caught up in every single incident that happened in those races, regardless of how far away they were. So, this is just a continuation of that team's behavior this week, and I'm surprised that Race Control has not dealt with them at all. Nick Howard was just totally blatant in trying to wreck Kyle Gaffigan, and I don't believe that was for position. Kyle Gaffigan, I believe, is a couple of laps behind the 58 car, so there was absolutely no need for him to do that at all. Dan Richards continues to lead the Rockford 200. Sarah Carlisle was well behind him before this caution, but that lead has now been erased. We will be back in just a few moments. Coverage of the Rockford 200 on OEN is brought to you by Burt's Used Lingerie and by Eversorb Tampons, the favorite tampon of Arla superstar Derek Dudding. We're getting set for the restart here at the Rockford 200 after Dan Leckleiter was taken out of the race from third. Dan Richards is your leader. He's been the dominant car ever since pole sitter Herbie Finkelberg started having his problems tonight. Green flag is back in the air, and Carlo DiPreto is on the attack, trying to get his lap back, and so is Jacob Eicholtz. Eicholtz makes it 3 wide. He's got to be careful. It would look really bad if he wrecked a leader. Look out! Contact between the 26 and the 91. DiPreto comes screaming through the infield. Look out! DiPreto has just hit the wall and almost flipped that car over. No caution as he tries to get back going. Oh, never mind. There's a spin in turn 3. Ali Riggs and DiPreto are around. I think that was, oh, and there's a car in the wall. Kellen Rogers, the 146, has become another victim of that Jersey barrier. I was going to say that, Ebenezer Quiggles Jr., the division by 0, just ran over the 26 car after he hit the wall and triggered this latest caution. Our 5th caution of the night. For a guy who just needs to win the championship by staying out of trouble, he hasn't been doing any of that. He's had his front end removed because of that accident on lap 1. He was sent for a spin through the grass, and now this happens. And he really just doesn't seem to be paying any attention as he gets into the back of the 26 car, and oh! Rogers went into the wall because of contact with Quiggles. Wow, he just took out the 146 car for no good reason. Rogers was making her 3rd start of the year. She finished 4th at Talladega last week and was running pretty well before she just got dumped by Quiggles. Now we're on board with the division by 0 car. There's DiPreto going into the wall in front of him. He just doesn't really seem to care that he ran over the 26. And there's Rogers up to the high side, and he doesn't care about running into her either. I have no idea what prompted Quiggles to go on this little rampage. Neither DiPreto nor Rogers had any fault in his problems tonight, and it looks like race control was just as perplexed as you are. This could make for a very bizarre championship outcome if race control decides to hand any sort of penalty to Quiggles. But in the meantime, we will have to survive the rest of the race first. And we now have to step out for another commercial break. Dan Richards is your current leader in car number 07. Stick around. "65 laps are in the books here at this crazy Rockford 200. Dan Richards and Curtis Rutherford, the Team Thunder teammates, are your current leaders. As we get set for yet another restart, Nick Howard in the 58 cars, the first car 1 lap down. Green flag is back out. Seiju Deschaux in car number 91, who won the first B-main, finds himself a lap down as well. And we have trouble towards the back. Megan Driver has spun and hit the wall, but she's kept going, no caution. J.W. Lester in the 5-0 car almost spins, and Quiggles has just hit the wall! Ebenezer Quiggles has just slammed into one of the Jersey barriers in the infield, and that car is completely destroyed. Your points leader is out of the race, just 68 laps in. This night just went from bad to worse for the Division by 0 team. I can't say that Quiggles has been a victim all night, but this is such a huge blow for that team. They've been dominating the whole season. They won 4 races, and now it could all end with what appears to have been contact from behind. We'll have to find out just how that happened. We got a replay for you. Wow, that is quite the stack up in turn 3. And Tyson Lautenschlager was the one who got into the back of Quiggles and sent him careening into the wall. Quiggles was running in 10th before that happened. Let's rewind a bit further. There's how that first incident started, with Megan Driver and Kyle Gaffigan getting together. And that's what started this stack up going into turn 3. And here comes Tyson Lautenschlager. He's a couple of laps down, and he was already in trouble with race control for that collision under yellow, that first caution with Nick Howard. Here we are on board with Lautenschlager. As you can see, he was in 21st and not contending for any of those positions that he was making that dive bomb for. So he had no business being in there at all, and this could potentially cost Ebenezer Quiggles the championship. Man, wouldn't that have been something to see a rookie driver win the championship? I know Quiggles has a lot of TM Lights experience before this, but he is a rookie under the ARLA rules, and it could all end for him because of an idiot who lost his ride earlier in the season because he was an idiot. Well, the beneficiary in all of this chaos could be Rip Tyler in car number 16 for Power Steering Incorporated. PSI's been in the series for a few years, but never won a race until 2011. And ever since then, they've been on fire. They've got all 3 cars in the top 10 in points this season. All of their drivers have multiple victories, and Rip Tyler himself has really come to life in this latter half of the season to get himself up in championship contention. Yeah, if anybody's caught on to what Quiggles and Fluffy Penguin Onion Burger have been doing, it's been Power Steering Incorporated. And interestingly enough, FPO owner Marcus Leonard drives for PSI in the TM Master Cup Series. And I'm getting word that there's been a brawl in the pit lane between the pit crews of Ebenezer Quiggles Jr. and Tyson Lautenschlager. I don't believe that Quiggles himself was involved, but both teams' pit crews have been ordered to meet with race control. Well, that's going to be a crowded room, and to be honest, I can't blame the FPO squad if they wanted to take their frustrations out on the Dangerous Dog crew. But as a result, everybody on both teams is now in trouble with race control, including the drivers for their incidents tonight. Anyway, the pace car pulls off the track, leaving the field in the hands of Dan Richards once again. Let's see if we can get a decent green flag running this time. Richards leads, Rutherford in the 07T is in second, Carlisle third, Rip Tyler is up to fourth, and Lawrence Burr is fifth. That's a good recovery for Burr after spinning Ellie Riggs out at the beginning of the race, and Nick Howard is around after contact with Seju Dejao, and Dejao is upside down. The caution is out once again, as your winner of the first B main of the week is now sitting upside down in turn number 4. Oh man, things are finally looking up for Dejao after he won that race, and now this happens. Sarah Carlisle in the 250 has some heavy damage. That's a huge blow for the 250 team. They had such a great start to the race. They had a fast car. They were easily in top 5 contention, and maybe they could have contended for the win. But I'm not sure what they're going to do about this damage. Whether or not it's terminal, I certainly hope it isn't. I'm not sure what Carlisle's doing next year, but regardless of what happens with this damage, I do hope that she gets a ride somewhere, because she's been very impressive all week. And now here's what happened between Dejao and Nick Howard. Dejao tries to go 3 wide with Howard and Richards. That sends Richards spinning to the inside, and Dejao ended up getting speared by the 250 car that had nothing to do with him careening back up the track. And it looked like there may have been contact between the 250 and the 28 of Jim Moore. Jim Moore has already raised a few eyebrows after that questionable pit exit that ended up putting Krikorian into the wall. But it looks like it was Rip Tyler who turned the 28 into Carlisle and started this whole mess. So I take back anything I might have implied about Jim Moore a moment ago. Yeah, Jim Moore's been keeping his nose pretty clean despite that pit exit he made towards the beginning of the race. Moore has been driving this 28 car on a limited schedule for Great Lakes Racing, and he hasn't been too bad. He's got a couple of top 10s here and there. Anyway, back up front, Dan Richards continues to lead the race. Nobody really got the chance to unseat him in this all-too-brief green flag run. He's still got his teammate Curtis Rutherford behind him. Rutherford has been very surprising, making his first ARLA Elite Series start and running up in the second position for Team Thunder. Rutherford is among Team Thunder's large pool of drivers that they have on staff. They're one of the few teams to have such a large stable of drivers. Most of them don't really do much, other than sit around and collect a paycheck, which doesn't sound like too bad of a deal to me, but don't get much seat time, on the other hand. I'm being told that Sarah Carlisle is out of the race, so that's a very tough break for the 250 team. This race is notorious for one-off drivers showing up and doing very well. Several of them have won the race, and Sarah Carlisle was one of those drivers trying to put herself in that same position. Well, that's not going to happen now after an incident with Rip Tyler, the only remaining championship contender in this race. And like his fellow championship contenders, he's gotten into a couple of incidents tonight, and he was just called to race control, presumably for that incident. I'm not entirely sure why. It looked like that he just got out of shape and bounced into the 28 car, but this is going to make race control even more crowded by the end of tonight. I'm pretty sure there are laws against stuffing that many people into such a tiny room. Anyway, we're getting set for another restart. Dan Richards continues to lead, working lap number 79 of 200. And Richards gets a great start over the rest of the field. Jennifer Goodwin in car number 696 is the first car one lap down, and we have trouble! Herbie Finkelberg and Bob Steffens go upside down. Steffens is sitting on his roof in the middle of the backstretch. Finkelberg has rolled that car again, and he's rubbing up against the wall in turn 3. I think he may have a tire down. But Herbie Finkelberg's night just gets worse. That car is still going, though. And stranger things have happened in this series. This is pretty typical of Finkelberg's season. He's been very fast, but he's been taken out of contention at so many races. He really should have won more races than just Carbondale. If his finishing record matched his performance, I think he could have easily been in championship contention as well. But that just wasn't meant to be. Dan Richards continues to lead the race. Jennifer Goodwin, again, is the first car one lap down. She's had a pretty good run otherwise. And now here's Bob Steffens as he gets into another accident tonight. Kevin Monroe and Herbie Finkelberg just run out of room and stuff Steffens into the wall. And that sent the 96 car over as well, and Lautenschlager just shoves the 211 out of the way. That's potentially really dangerous. Now riding on board with Kevin Monroe, he was a lap down, but running up inside the top 15. He got into the 211, and then the 96 comes charging in and starts this whole mess. It's been a dismal night for Kevin Monroe, the 2011 series champion, and this accident just makes things worse. Herbie Finkelberg has come out of the pit lane, and he's going to try to finish this race. That car has been upside down twice, but the 96 crew is making heroes of themselves, and they just taped that car up and put it back out there. I don't think that the officials are going to find this to be terribly safe, but the 96 team is hell-bent on finishing this race no matter what. We'll just have to find out if this 96 car is still halfway competitive after the punishment it's been through tonight. I really have to admire their dedication. Let's check in on the progress of our in-race reporter, Allie Riggs. Riggs is currently a lap down, but she is in 9th place. Hey, Allie, this is Scott Bush at OEN. Do you have a copy?
Oh, it's you again.
Right. You're doing a pretty good job out there. You are a lap down, but you are making the most of that and running in 9th. How's the car feeling at this point?
The car? Why the hell do you care about the car? It's how am I feeling? I am so fucking pissed. So what if I'm in 9th? I'm a fucking lap down. Don't you dare ask me how the car is feeling when all this other shit is happening. Gah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Allie Riggs, our in-race reporter, and we once again apologize for the language. You do know that as a cable network, we're not going to get in any trouble for that, right? Moving on, the pace car is pulled off the track. We are getting set for another restart after this 8th caution of the night. Dan Richards continues to lead. Jennifer Goodwin is going to try again to get her lap back. Mariana Zavala is right behind her. And Goodwin got a much better start. Though I'm not sure if she's going to be able to clear Dan Richards in the 07 car. And Allie Riggs has just come screaming across the track and put Mariano Zavala in the wall. The caution does not come out, but how on earth did that start? Allie Riggs has really been struggling along with the rest of Riggs Motorsports and M&J Racing this year. She does have that win at the New York Auto Ring, but overall, she has not been happy with her team at all, and that's primarily why she is moving her truck team up to the Elite Series next year. Curtis Rutherford continues to run in second place. He's being held up by the 696 car a little bit as his teammate builds up an even bigger lead. He's going to have Rip Tyler hounding him in just a moment. Rutherford is, of course, making his first ARLA Elite Series start. And as we mentioned earlier, this race has had so many one-off drivers show up and do so well. And several times this race has been won by a driver who doesn't run the full schedule. In recent years, Patrick Carpino and Rush McLeod have done it. And tonight, Dan Richards and Curtis Rutherford over at Team Thunder are looking to do that themselves. But first, they face stiff competition from Rip Tyler, who is currently in position to win the championship. He has to finish 11th or better, but the real key word is finish, because he's certainly got a top 5 car at the moment. Oh, that was a sketchy moment with J.W. Lester, who I believe is running a lap down. That's right, Lester is currently off the lead lap, but he's been flying through the field after making repairs to that 5.0 car. Lester is currently in 8th, and this could be a battle for position between Lester and Jennifer Goodwin, who is running in 7th. Goodwin is right on the back bumper of Dan Richards now. Richards seems to be falling off a bit. Well, it also doesn't help that Richards is being held up by Mariano Zavala. Zavala was just put into the wall a few laps ago by Allie Riggs, who just came screaming through the infield and back up the track. We have no idea who may have hit her from behind. But Goodwin has just gotten by Richards and is now back on the lead lap. And Nick Howard has just hit the wall, going into turn number 1. And Lawrence Burr slams into the 58 car. The caution is out. And Jennifer Goodwin and J.W. Lester are now back on the lead lap. Rip Tyler is now the leader after Dan Richards had more trouble navigating lap traffic than we thought. I was surprised to see everybody challenging Richards. I thought he was just going to pull away like he's been doing on all those other restarts. Well, rather, the restarts that haven't resulted in a caution immediately afterwards. Rip Tyler's easily got one of the better cars in the field. He should finish 11th very easily, but he's going to go for it. I see that Chris Winter in the 056 car, the second Leckliter Racing entry, has snuck his way up into 3rd in the rather chaotic shuffle that was happening up front. Now let's take a look at what happened to Nick Howard. Oh, that's Megan Driver right behind him, and she makes absolutely no effort to avoid spinning him out. And Howard caught Lawrence Burr completely by surprise. We saw Lawrence Burr pull into the pits. He is done after a very good start to this race. Tough break for him. Wow, it's like she didn't even know he was there. And she was already in trouble with race control for starting that wreck on lap 1. Well, she was doing a pretty good job at keeping her nose clean after that, until this happens. I'm not sure what to say to that. It's a shame that karma hasn't come back to bite her yet. Anyway, we are just past halfway here at the Rockford 200, and things are starting to shake up, as Rip Tyler has just taken the lead from Dan Richards, who has been dominating most of the night. We'll be back in just a few moments. Stick around. Welcome back to OEN's live coverage of the Rockford 200. Rip Tyler has just taken the restart, and Dan Richards is hounding him already. Chris Winter was sleeping on that start, and we got quite the stack up back there as Tyler and Richards try to pull away from the field. And there's trouble off of turn 4. One car is upside down. It's Curtis Rutherford, the 07T. He was running very well this whole race. Tyson Lautenschlager, 673Z, has heavy damage. And there's another spin coming back to the caution. Mariano Zavala is around. Zavala is a couple laps down at this point, and it looks like he might have gotten together with the 28 of Jim Moore, but this is a complete disaster for Curtis Rutherford. He was running up in the top 5 all night, and now he just gets taken out in an instant. We're going to try to dig up a replay for you as the field tries to get themselves settled out. Rip Tyler continues to lead the race with Dan Richards in second. That green flag run was far too short for Richards to try to mount a serious challenge. Jacob Eichholz in the 231. I believe is the first car one lap down at this point. He's having a pretty solid run tonight, despite being off the lead lap. Now here's Curtis Rutherford. Jim Moore and Tyson Lautenschlager go 3 wide with him. And Lautenschlager just gets together with the 07T, and that takes both cars up into the wall. Kyle Gaffigan smashes into Rutherford's back window there. Gaffigan's been off the pace all night, so this just might put him out of his misery. And Tyson Lautenschlager was already in trouble. He and his entire crew were in trouble. Lautenschlager for his previous behavior tonight, and his crew for that pit road brawl with Ebenezer Quiggles Jr.'s crew. Jennifer Goodwin and J.W. Lester have both gotten back on the lead lap in previous cautions. Goodwin and Lester are running 5th and 6th, respectively. Lester's been through a lot of punishment tonight, while Goodwin's night has been much more quiet. But they're running very, very well at the moment. Goodwin's actually racing on a broken wrist that she suffered at Orange County, but she's really been toughing it out, and she could potentially get a top 5 to show for it. We are getting set for another restart. There are just 6 cars on the lead lap. Rip Tyler, Dan Richards, Chris Winter, Megan Driver, Jennifer Goodwin, and J.W. Lester. Jacob Eichholz is running 7th. The first car 1 lap down, Allie Riggs in car 19, is in 8th. There will be 90 laps to go when the leaders cross the start-finish line. And Rip Tyler gets a great start over Dan Richards. He already leads by about 3 car lengths going into turn number 1, leaving everybody in the dust. And that's probably the best way you're going to stay safe tonight. Just take off and leave everyone behind at the start. You might say that Tyler isn't playing it very conservatively for this championship, but trust me, this is the best thing that he can do right now. Dan Richards appears to have cleared the rest of the field and is trying to reel in Rip Tyler. J.W. Lester has just taken 5th from Jennifer Goodwin, and he's trying to chase down the lapped car of Allie Riggs. And in front of Allie Riggs is Megan Driver, who's trying to get by Jacob Eichholz at the moment. If Lester gets up to Megan Driver, that would be a battle for position. Jennifer Goodwin is catching up to J.W. Lester at the moment. That could be a position battle right there, and we could potentially see another position battle with Allie Riggs and Jacob Eichholz, but Lester's dispatched Riggs at the moment. Allie Riggs, our in-race reporter, has not quite been up to the pace of the leaders all night, but through attrition, she's gotten herself into a top 10 position, and she is trying to challenge J.W. Lester to try to get back by him. Remember, that is not for position. I think it's kind of interesting how tonight we've seen people fall way behind and then catch right back up in just a couple of laps. When Lester got by Goodwin, he opened up about a 10-car length gap over her. Then she closed to within 4, and now she's back up to about 8. And now Goodwin is catching up again. Jacob Eichholz is currently running in 7th place, 8th. Jim Moore got by him on the restart for 7th. Eichholz is the 2011 Rookie of the Year. He finished 4th in the standings. His only victory that year was the Rookie Shootout, which doesn't count as a points victory anyway. But 2012 has been very dismal for him and Eichholz Autosport. Eichholz is currently a lap down, but he is in 8th position, so this could be considered to be a bright spot for his season if he keeps it up. although he's got Allie Riggs in the 19 chasing him down for that spot. And while this is going on, Dan Richards has just taken the lead back from Rip Tyler, and he's opened up about a 10-car length gap already. I was wondering when Dan Richards would pick it back up again, although we got the 36 of Benji Flynn coming up. He could possibly play spoiler for Richards and get Rip Tyler back into play. Here's how he got by Tyler for the lead. Tyler got held up by Mariana Zavala. Richards uses the 47 as a pick, and that's actually how he opened up the gap so quickly, as Tyler was hung up behind the 47 for a few moments, but that's all it takes. Richards has just gotten by the 36. Rip Tyler is working on him now, but Richards now has the 63 of 2011 Series champion Kevin Monroe to deal with. Monroe, his 2011 championship was the first of his career, even though he's been in the series since 2001. Oh, look out! Richards almost turned the 63 car. Dan Richards is not playing very nice with the lap cars tonight, and we got a battle for second brewing between Chris Winter and Rip Tyler. Tyler gets hung up behind the 63. Winter came screaming in there and almost took out the 63 himself. And Chris Winter, who has been running very quietly for most of the night, has suddenly turned it up quite a bit, and he finds himself in second place. I believe that 056 car's best finish this year was with Lucas Flint when he finished third at Road America. That's the second Lechliter racing car, and he is carrying the flag for that team ever since Dan Lechliter wrecked out. Oh! Finkelberg into the wall! He just got dumped by the 07! Well, I said Dan Richards wasn't playing very nice with the lap cars, and now we have confirmation that that's his plan. Herbie Finkelberg, that car is destroyed. After rolling that car twice, the 96 crew has played heroics to keep him out on the track. Finkelberg was in contention for a top 15 finish, despite the punishment that car's been through tonight. But it all comes to an end thanks to Dan Richards being impatient. Finkelberg was well on his way to becoming one of the top stories of the night, but Dan Richards decides to spoil it all for him. I guarantee you that if Bill Tissam were still in this car, he would not have done that at all. Finkelberg really didn't deserve that. Well, here's a replay of the accident, as if we were looking for anything new here. Yeah, Richards just decides to run right into the back of the 96 and dump him into the wall for no good reason. Finkelberg was running in 12th at the time. He was a few laps down, but that was quite the display of determination by that team. It's a shame it has to end by something not of his own doing. Well, it's been a crazy race so far, and it's showing no signs of letting up. We'll be back in a few moments. Coverage of the Rockford 200 on OEN is brought to you by Horse Piss Whiskey. Bold flavor, straight from the horse's dick. And by Marlisle. What is Marlisle, you ask? Nobody knows. Buy some and find out for yourself. Welcome back to the Rockford 200 live on OEN. Dan Richards has just taken the restart. Chris Winter is running in second place after running about as quietly as a murder confession in B for most of the night. I'm pleasantly surprised by how well Lechliter Racing's been running tonight. Dan Lechliter, as you remember, was running in third before he got wrecked. And now Chris Winter looks like he has a very fast car, so we have a spin on the track. Jacob Eichholz has gone around in the 231 car. He is still running a lap down, and I believe he was in a position battle with Allie Riggs. I know that those who are looking to challenge each other in that last green flag run and coming to the restart, Riggs just turns the 231. Right in front of the 696 is Jennifer Goodwin, who was on the lead lap. Eichholz is probably going to be fine, but Jennifer Goodwin absolutely did not deserve to be in that. She had some pretty heavy damage on the front end of her car. I hope that her crew can get that fixed, because she was having one of the best runs of the season. And Allie Riggs just dumped the 231 for no good reason. Well, I have some good news. Jennifer Goodwin pulled into the pits, and the Altamont Autosport crew was able to fix that car. They just removed to the front end and sent her back out there. She is still on the lead lap, so hopefully this crash will not affect her too much. Well, that's a relief, because that accident had absolutely no business happening. Let's see if we can get an explanation from our in-race reporter. Well, it's been a while since we've checked in on her. Let's do it. Allie Riggs, this is Scott Bush at OEN. Do you have a copy?
Yeah, I hear you.
So you tangled a bit with Jacob Beichholz. You were battling for 8th with him on the restart. So what happened between the two of you?
Well, he was in my way, and now he's not.
Right. Well, thank you for your time. I'm not sure why she hasn't been called to race control yet. If, that's not gonna get her in trouble, then I don't know what will. Anyway, Allie Riggs is currently in 8th. She is still a lap down. Jacob Eichholz is back to 9th after that incident. He has some rear end damage from the impact with the 696, but he has not pitted to repair that. Jennifer Goodwin is back to 6th place after she did repair that damage, so she hasn't lost too much ground. Dan Richards is still your leader. Chris Winter is 2nd. Benji Flynn, that first car in line, is off the lead lap. He has some very heavy damage. The entire front end is gone on that car. I believe he was caught up in the first lap accident where Alex Carson went for a roll, among several other cars tonight. Yeah, these walls at the Rockford Speedway are notorious for launching cars. It's generally a good idea not to hit them, but a lot of the cars that have hit them have done so not of their own doing. We are getting set for the restart now. The pace car pulls off the track. 12 cars remain in this race. 6 on the lead lap and 6 off. And we've still got 60 laps remaining, but if we go green the rest of the way, that's going to go by very quickly. I have a feeling that we're going to see many more cautions before the end of this, as Benji Flynn gets into the side of the 056 right out of the gate. He's really trying to fight to gain as much ground back up as possible. That charge by Flynn, I don't think is an indication of how fast that car is. Flynn has been pretty well off the pace. I think that Winter just got a very slow start, as Rick Tyler in 3rd place tries to negotiate with some lap traffic, although I think he's cleared them. He's trying to battle with the 63 of Kevin Monroe. Megan Driver is still in the 4th position. That car is still fairly clean, despite all the trouble that she's caused tonight. Yeah, she doesn't really deserve to have that car as clean as it is. She needed a lot more time in these full-bodied cars before attempting this race, because she's just made some really over-exuberant and childish moves tonight. Jim Moore, one of the lap cars, is trying to work on the 61 right now. Jennifer Goodwin in the 696 is up to 5th after getting by the 5.0 of J.W. Lester, so Goodwin still has a fairly quick car, as we've got another position battle between Allie Riggs and Jacob Eichholz. Eichholz has taken the 8th position back from Riggs. Hopefully she won't spin him again. I wouldn't put it past her, but that's not important right now. J.W. Lester has just taken 5th back from Jennifer Goodwin, so we've got a couple of very good battles going here, although it appears that Jennifer Goodwin has lost quite a bit of ground to J.W. Lester, as Lester now tries to get around the 19 car. That is not for position. Dan Richards continues to lead the race. He's working on the 47 of Mariano Zavala, who's a couple laps down at this point, and I saw him in the wall a few laps ago. Chris Winter is trying to reel him in the 056 car. He's really close to the gap, and there he goes to the inside. Dan Richards is not putting up much of a fight, as Winter now goes for the lead. I'm surprised that Richards didn't just wreck the 47 car before the 056 got to him. And Richards has lost quite a bit of ground to Chris Winter, making just his 3rd start of the year. Chris Winter is the son of former ARLA race winner Donald Winter, who was unfortunately paralyzed from the waist down in an accident at Talladega back in the late 80s. I understand that Donald Winter is going to be a consultant for Edwin Schwarzlowski's team, Racers with Disabilities, next year. And now his son leads the Rockford 200 with a possible shot at winning the race, with coming to just 45 laps to go. First and second place have opened up quite a gap over the rest of the field. Rip Tyler's running there in third, having a bit of trouble negotiating with Rip Tyler in the 36 car for Dollett's Performance. Benji Flynn has had a bit of seat time here at the Rockford Speedway this year, competing in the various drift events with teammate Scott Dollett's. I don't recall Flynn doing terribly well, though. Yeah, Flynn is not that great of a drifter from what I've seen, and I think his use of traction control at Buffalo a couple years ago is evidence of that. But that's a story for another day. Dan Richards is trying to close the gap on Chris Winter, as Winter comes across Jennifer Goodwin, trying to put her back a lap down. If he gets by the 696 car, this will leave 5 cars on the lead lap. J.W. Lester is not too far away, running in the 5th position. Allie Riggs in the 19 is trying to get by him, while she races Jacob Eicholtz for 8th. And if the leaders get by these two, Riggs and Eicholtz, that will put them 2 laps down. They're still in the top 10, but I don't think they're going to want that -2L next to their names on the results. Well, Eicholtz is about to suffer that fate, as Richards has closed the gap on Chris Winter, as they face heavy lap traffic. Kevin Monroe is there. Mariano Zavala is going to go a lap down again. He is by far the slowest car on the track, and I believe that he is currently in 12th, the last car running. And Richards forces his way under the 056. Battle for the lead. Zavala spins into the infield in turn number 1. He bounces off the Jersey barrier, and he's going to get that car refired. But the caution comes out anyway. I'm not entirely sure that was necessary. Zavala has finished 2nd in the past 2 consecutive races to Taylor Brillin, who failed to qualify for this race. And Zavala then won his heat race in a very surprising fashion, but he's been off the pace tonight. And as we mentioned earlier in the night, I think there's a good possibility that Zenith was just throwing everything they had at the heat races as far as the 47 was concerned. Le Gruel, their main driver, failed to qualify. Zavala is a veteran of the Pacific Racing Championship, where people did not really have good things to say about him. And here's what happened to Zavala. Oh, look, it's Allie Riggs right behind him. I don't know about you, but I find that very surprising. That is not like Allie Riggs to just turn somebody like that. Right, I have no idea what that was about. Riggs has certainly kept her nose clean all night. This was not for position. Riggs was a good few laps ahead of Zavala, and as we mentioned before, Zavala was the last car running. He was in 12th place, got 12 cars remaining in the race. We've got a late race restart incoming here at the Rockford 200. Dan Richards leads. Can he hold off a hungry field behind him? Stick around. Welcome back to the Rockford 200 on OEN. The green flag has just come out. We have 31 laps to go in the final race of the 2012 ARLA Elite Series season, presented by Smash Beer. Dan Richards is your leader. J.W. Lester is the first car 1 lap down, and he is working on Chris Winter to try to get back up there and get his lap back again. Lester has had a very fast car all night, despite being trapped a lap down for most of it. And this isn't very surprising. He almost won the Mini Indy 500 in an epic late race battle with Ebenezer Quiggles Jr., who came in tonight as the points leader, but he got wrecked out by an idiot. Lester is a former state trooper from Minnesota. He's had a lot of training in high-speed pursuits, so he took to these ARLA Elite Series cars very well, and it'll be interesting to watch him as a rookie in 2013. Chris Winter now has Rip Tyler in third place, hounding him. If the race were to end right now, Tyler would be the champion. Tyler just has to finish 11th or better, but he's got to survive these final 25 laps. And based on the carnage we've seen tonight, that is not going to be an easy task. That's right, we've had 13 cautions tonight, but a lot of them have occurred in the midfield. So by charging his way to the front, Rip Tyler, who has just taken second from Chris Winter, is actually running a very smart race, staying away from the people who are likely to wreck. Megan Driver is back in fourth. She's running in between a couple of lapped cars, Jacob Eichholz and Jim Moore, the 231 and 28 cars respectively. Megan Driver was ordered a race control on lap number 1 for going 3 wide and causing a big accident, but she's kept her nose fairly clean ever since then. She's got... Oh! J.W. Lester is around in the 5-0 car! Lester has spun into the infield. He got that car refired. We are still green. Coming to 21 laps to go. Lester is going to lose at least 2 positions. Lester at a top 5 run going, but that's not going to happen at this point. Here's a replay. Lester got trapped behind Mariano Zavala, and he hooked the 47 and swept across the front bumper of the 056 car of Chris Winter. So that was kind of self-inflicted, but you can't help but feel for him. As the battle for second continues between Rip Tyler and Chris Winter, Tyler now trapped behind the 231 of Eichholz. Rip Tyler has been on fire in this last half of the season. He's had 3 wins, 2 of them on dirt tracks, Buffalo Downs and Orange County. You'd think that Power Steering Incorporated would have a win record like Pearson Sweeney or M&J, but it took them until 2011 to finally win a race, and since then, they've really come to life. I'm very pleased at the progress that they've made, and I'm very pleased with this battle we're seeing right now. This is the best battle on the track right now. You are not missing anything up front. Dan Richards is continuing to pull away from the rest of the field. We got Megan Driver and car 61 closing in on these two as they fight it out. Here is Dan Richards right now. He's currently got about a 7-second lead over the rest of the field. That's well over half a lap as he puts Jennifer Goodwin in the 96 car another lap down. Goodwin, unfortunately, has not been up to the pace of the leaders. She's gotten up into top 5 contention through attrition, but that car is not really as strong as her position on the leaderboard indicates. But still, that's a very solid effort for the Altamont Autosport car, and we have no idea what that team's doing next season. Rip Tyler is trying to hold off Chris Winter and Megan Driver. Driver going for third on Winter now, using the 47 of Mariano Zavala as a pick. Megan Driver moves up into the 3rd spot. After a very controversial start to this race, Megan Driver seems to have gotten the hang of this track and these cars. I don't know about that. I can tell you from experience that these cars are not very difficult to drive. I've heard that Driver is getting a few more races in 2013, and she's really going to need that experience if she's going to learn how to complete a race without wrecking anybody. Dan Richards now in some heavy lap traffic, coming to 7 laps to go. He just dumps Jim Moore, car 28, into the wall with just 7 laps remaining in the race. Dan Richards cannot seem to keep his nose clean. We were talking about Megan Driver earlier, and she's had a lot of trouble this race, but Dan Richards has had a lot of trouble navigating traffic without wrecking people. And Jim Moore was going for 6th place as well. So it's not like Moore was far down the running order. That would have been a very significant finish for the Great Lakes Motorsports team. But now they've got nothing to show for it. That car is junk. Dan Richards just had one job. He was so far ahead of the field. He had just 6 more laps to bring it home. He had no competition. There was no need for him to just bulldoze everyone like that. And that was a very heavy hit that the 28 car took. He just got dumped into the infield and came screaming head-on into that jersey barrier. You know, I wonder if Dan Richards was hoping to just end this race under yellow, but starting this weekend, that's not the case. ARLA implemented an overtime rule effective tonight, as Richards was just called to race control, and rightly so. There is no need for him to do that at all. But as I was saying, ARLA implemented an overtime rule. If the race is projected to end under yellow, the officials will immediately throw the red flag, allow teams 10 minutes to repair cosmetic damage to their cars, and then they'll move all the lap cars to the back and let the leaders fight it out for just 2 laps. And we will go overtime as many times as necessary to ensure a green flag finish, because the fans really don't like to see these races end under yellow. But I have a feeling that they're going to get this accident cleaned up before we have to go to overtime. But if that's the case, then these lapped cars will restart in the same order that they took the caution in. So the leaders are not going to be restarting together. And that will give Dan Richards a very big advantage. And the lights on the pace car have just gone out. We will take this restart with just 1 lap to go. Rip Tyler is sitting in second place. He just has to survive 1 more lap, and the championship is his. But he's restarting in the middle of traffic, and he's got a couple hungry drivers behind him, Megan Driver and Chris Winter, so that's easier said than done. The pace car is off the track. Just 1 more lap, and the season is over. Dan Richards leads the field to the restart. Can Dan Richards win the Rockford 200 in just his 4th series start? And he gets a huge jump over everybody else as the green flag waves. Just an 1/8 of a mile to go for Dan Richards. And coming off of turn number 4, Dan Richards will take the Rockford 200. That's the 4th win of the year for Team Thunder. Megan Driver 2nd, Rip Tyler completes the podium, Chris Winter 4th. There's Megan Driver, who took the 2nd spot from Rip Tyler on that final lap. Chris Winter, very good job to the 056 team, Lech Lighter Racing. They've worked very hard all week to get this result. Dan Lech Lighter wrecked out as the crowd goes nuts here at the Rockford Speedway. And Rip Tyler, by finishing 3rd, is your 2012 ARLA Elite Series champion, the first ARLA championship for Power Steering Incorporated. Tyler has only 4 wins to his name in this series, but 3 of them came this year. And that was good enough to earn him the championship. Now, let's have a look at this final lap. Jacob Eichelt's gotten to the back of Rip Tyler. Coming into turn 1, and that big stack up, the race almost ended for him right there. And Megan Driver was quick to take advantage and slip into 2nd. Now that is when you want to be aggressive. Not lap 1, but the final laps. So hopefully Megan Driver's learned a thing or two from tonight's race. And Rip Tyler now performing burnouts on the track. Power Steering Incorporated has really stepped it up this year. Their drivers have combined for a total of 8 victories, more than any other team in the series. And Rip Tyler has done a fantastic job charging through the standings in the second half of the year. He was kind of a long shot for the title coming into tonight, but he's capitalized on the failures of his rivals. And now he has his first ARLA Elite Series championship to show for it. And here are your unofficial point standings. Tyler takes the title by 16 points over Ebenezer Quiggles Jr. Oh, what could have been for Quiggles, the rookie, if he had not been taken out by an idiot. You have Jenny Kuznetsov finishes 3rd, 103 points behind Rip Tyler. And Everybody else in the top 10 failed to qualify for this race. Laura Cyrus came into this week with a very slim shot of possibly taking the title herself, but she would have had to win the B main and finished second tonight in order to take it, and that just wasn't in the cards for her. But great job to Motor Assault Racing all year. If I may be honest, that 102 car should not have been anywhere near the top 15, but Cyrus has done a fantastic job for this team. And then Rick Tyler is joined in the top 10 by his Power Steering Incorporated teammates Bigsby Foot and Libby Bell. Tyler has finished his burnouts and has come to a stop at Victory Lane. The whole PSI team will be rushing out to congratulate him, I'm sure. Coming up next on OEN is the season premiere of Richie and Bitchy, and after that, we have Tailgate Party with Jeb Klinger. And I'm sure with the crazy race we've had tonight, Mr. Klinger will have a field day. For OEN Sports, I'm Scott Bush alongside Earl McDermott, and we thank you for tuning in.